Hello, and welcome to episode 423 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And the biggest football fan that I know on this earth, Mr. Tony Esmond.
Yep, looking forward to the new season.
You love the kickballs, don't you?
I know nothing about it, but you were disparaging about Glasgow, so I was just defending them.
You spent 45 minutes explaining the offside rule to me at one convention.
Mansplaining it to you.
And don't believe him about Glasgow.
No, I love Glasgow.
Yeah.
Speaking of Glasgow.
Yes, this week we're going to be joined. It's going to be a podcast, a palooza. I'll just try to mix the words. Yeah, it's going to be a real jamboree of comics podcast goodness.
Jamboree.
Yeah. I love the word. I love the word jamboree. It's not used enough, if you ask me. But yeah, this week we're joined by the hosts of the Awesome Earth 2 podcast, Pete Watson and David Steele. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello,
fellas.
Having us.
Guys.
Yes, thanks very much.
It's good to have you on. We're big fans. Plus, we ruined your podcast for you recently.
Yeah.
Enhanced.
That's one way of putting it. He has to say that because he's on this show. And our lovely listeners may have heard us talking about Earth 2, the podcast, and the fact that we may have inadvertently appeared on an episode. But we love the show, and there's going to be lots of comic book talk this week, and podcast talk. So be prepared for lots of goodness.
And major project, how to handle a major project. Yeah. Which would frighten me.
They put far more work into their show than we ever have.
In the whole of the podcast.
Just one episode of their show probably had more effort than anything we've done in 8 years. So, so they're here to tell us how it's done. And
cool.
Do you know how comics should be read these days? Do you know how it should be done, guys?
On the Comic House app?
Oh, yes, indeed. Our lovely sponsor, Comic House, who support the show.
Not even scripted, that was it.
Not even scripted. I've had the same bit of script here for like probably four years, and I try to mix it up every time. But you can tell the lines that repeat all the time. For instance, Comic House is an indie comic marketplace with a difference. The difference is they love indie comics as much as we do, and you lovely people listening at home. There's a huge selection of titles on the Comic House database. If you self-publish, you can list your book on there as well. It's another avenue to get your work out into the world and start selling. But the app is brilliant. It's basically like Netflix for comics, only £3 a month, which is a crazy good deal. Especially
that is a good deal, actually, isn't it, these days?
In this world of... I mean, we whinge about prices all the time.
But, every day.
But £3, for those £3, you get access to an enormous library of digital indie comics that's being added to all the time.
Is the Lang Walk on there, Pete? The Lang Walk
Not yet. No.
Okay, good. Yeah, he's adding.
He said though. He said yet.
Yeah, be soon.
Yeah.
Because lovely guests, past, present, and no doubt future, have added their books to the service. There's a 14-day free trial, and to find out more about the adverts that we ruin every single week, you should go to comichouse.com. And thank you to them for supporting the show, as always.
Very smooth. We're trying to impress the people.
I'll tell you what, that was one of the better ones, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Just trying to be impressive.
I mean, is it good etiquette for podcasters to really pat themselves on the back when they've done a good sponsorship ad?
I don't know. Comics people do that a lot.
I mean, we're a comic book show, and we spent the first 10 minutes of last week's show talking about fucking custard. So,
do you know what? And I think we got more listeners.
I know. I called it the custard episode, and it was slow going on the Monday. I was thinking, have we confused too many people? But thank you to everyone that listened last week.
We said, shall I call it the custard episode? Oh yeah, go on. That'd be funny. It's like that. To be fair, podcast is a funny thing, isn't it? And because I love the Earth 2 podcast. I listen to it as soon as it comes out. Sometimes I message Pete 10 minutes after it's come out, saying I really like this bit. And he's like, how did you get it to it so soon? But it's weird because I've had these two guys in my ears in the nicest possible way.
Pardon?
For a long time now. And then I got to meet them both together just purely by coincidence. And I was a bit fanboyish, I'd like to say.
Oh my word.
With you both.
Look, we need to... talk
No
about
leg humping, but it was close.
We'll talk about the meat and potatoes show in a minute, but I need to know this. And Tony, be quiet. Let the men talk.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a bit.
It's a bit bully. You're a bully. Toxic masculinity.
Shush you. Pete, David, what was that experience like to have Tony Esband, fanboy, over you?
I had loads of questions as well.
I said, be quiet.
Sorry.
I was gutted, obviously, because he refused a selfie. I'm a demon for a selfie. That put me in a back foot and ruined my mood for the rest.
Yeah,
of
but
the day.
we went in the manga room, and you made me take my clothes off, so I didn't know what was happening.
Untying the hentai.
Yeah. It was nice to meet Tony, because obviously, we're really appreciative of his feedback. He's always very positive and encouraging, and it feels like quite often we live in a bit of a vacuum.
Yeah.
No, what you mean?
Feedback.
Yeah.
We have a core number of people that always retweet us or comment on Instagram or Facebook posts, and that's literally only about half a dozen people. So, and we don't take them for granted. We're always grateful. So it's just nice to meet someone else, as I always say, so that we're kind of aware that we're not shouting into the void every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before let's just get stuck into it straight away, because for those who may not have heard the Earth 2 podcast, what exactly is it for those who haven't heard?
Yeah, it's got a big concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
To give you the boil in the bag definition, it's a weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and the Bronze Ages of comics. There you go.
There's a real zing to that, almost as if he's had to say it several times. Yeah.
We must emphasise it's the pre-crisis DC. The end point is Crisis on Infinite Earths. The famous 95 miniseries that boiled it all down to one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even at the time, it was difficult getting your head around it. I remember sort of finally having to work out who everyone was whilst catching up on the DC universe as a sort of young man, pre-crisis, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Everything's multiverse now, anyway, isn't it? Everything we read about is a multiverse of some kind.
Yeah.
Yes, sadly, it is well overdone these days.
Yeah. So, what inspired to actually pick this as a concept to obviously give you because you've got to be passionate about it to want to talk about it and put a lot of work into it. What inspired it, really?
Can I tell this bit, Peter?
Go for it, yes.
Long time ago, about 10, 11 years or so, something like that, Peter had put me onto an X-Men podcast called The Danger Room.
Okay.
Which I think is still going. An excellent show. Two hosts, Adam and Jeremy, would read through an issue of an X-Men comic or a story featuring the X-Men. They would tell the story in character style voices and have a little bit of a chat about it. And I listened along to this, and I remember saying to Pete at one point, we could do this. We could do All-Star Squadron. It'd be great. And Peter said, no, but we'd have to do all the other Jelly Jesse team-ups and all the other crossovers. And I kind of went, okay, right, sounds like quite a lot of work. Maybe not. And then fast forward to 2019, and I got involved in a Doctor Who podcast. Should I name it? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah,
Go
feel
for
free,
it.
man.
Yes,
Yeah.
A Doctor Who podcast called The Power of Three, and it's safe to say it didn't get off to the best of starts. It took us a long while to kind of find our groove and find our rhythm. Probably helped with the fact that when we started recording, I had only met one of the two other people that that we were recording with in real life. It was quite a while before we all actually did meet face to face, and I wasn't really enjoying it. I was finding a lot of it very frustrating, and I said to Peter, one of many times that I was in seeing him at work and was just moaning and saying, this is doing my nut in, blah blah blah. And Pete said, very 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 perceptively, he said, if you weren't on the podcast, would you listen to it? And I said, no, I wouldn't. And then he said,
interesting. Okay.
And then he said, well, what would you listen to? And I said, I'd listen to that blooming thing we talked about doing years ago, where we did a single Justice Society story in the Silver Age and Bronze Age and did all the, all that sort of stuff. And by this point, Peter had been doing a podcast for the shop he works in. So he had acquired the technical knowledge to do it.
See, knowing Pete as I do, I wouldn't be surprised if he went, I have this spreadsheet ready.
Well, that came slightly later on.
Okay.
So we just kind of went, well, shall we do it? And we basically just sort of went, fuck it, why not? And this was roughly about 4 years ago. And then Pete came over to mine the first day off he had after that, and we just sat down and talked about it. And I sat down over a couple of nights, used my own knowledge and the helpful resource of Mike's Amazing World of Comics to just basically go through every month that, you know, from 61 when Flash of Two Worlds was published up until the Crisis, and worked out a rough sort of timeline of everything that we'd cover. And we've added to that since via our own knowledge and some of the ways that we've kind of relaxed and flexed out the rules and what we're going to cover. Yeah. So it kind of came out of happily Power of Three became quite enjoyable until my interest in Doctor Who just completely plateaued, and I'm only on it occasionally now. But you know, we've been working on it now on Earth 2 for about 4 years, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon goes by, doesn't it?
Yeah, it time just passes, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So you had the concept, but then, I mean, it's a completely different kettle of fish than, like, I don't know, three absolute goobers just sitting in a room just talking about
bollocks.
Yeah, just
which
absolute
podcast
bollocks
is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't narrow it down.
That could just be a blanket statement. So what is
I mean, you did have a load of rules. I know you mentioned rules there, Pete, David, but you did have a road, and you kind of, I know you sort of understep, don't you? You sort of play about with them a bit, but there is a set of rules. So for a lot of our listeners may not understand the concept of where it was in the Silver and Bronze Age in relation to the different worlds. So what does it involve, if you don't mind me asking? If you could maybe explain that a little bit.
Well, basically, if there's any story in DC Comics that involves a parallel Earth, or in some cases other dimensions, we're trying to cover all of those stories, not just the Earth 2 stories. Earth 2 is just a catch-all because that's the most well-known alternate universe. But
Silver Age is full of wackiness like that, isn't it?
It's glorious. Absolutely glorious. Yes, the stories we've uncovered. And we also, as part of our research and everything, we discovered most people think that the multiverse started with the Flash of Two Worlds storyline, where, you know, Barry Allen meets Jay Garrick, the Golden Age Flash. But we've discovered so many stories that involve parallel universes and meeting duplicates that take place before that. It's been a complete eye opener, and we've tried to cover all of them as chronologically. But however, we do occasionally find ones that we've missed, and we do the occasional flashback episode, as we call it, where we basically jump back and say, we kind of missed this one, but it ties in with something that's coming up, so here's this. That was kind of the concept of that. And also the other aspects of the show is legacy, and that's basically when someone takes on the mantle of another character. And we've also used that for when the same name's reused. And
because you have like Manhunter and stuff like that. Yeah.
The Manhunters episode we did fairly recently was fascinating.
Because
we discovered an extra Manhunter that I think no one really knows exists, called Rick Nelson, who was a Golden Age Manhunter, but he basically was in one issue, but he was rebranded as Paul Kirk in the next issue. But he's got a different costume. He does look different. And Paul Kirk was the name of a previous character that they'd used as kind of like a private eye kind of guy before that. And it was Simon and Kirby who were doing that Manhunter run. And it's almost as if they say, well, just change him to Paul Kirk. And they did going forward. But there's no reason to... In our headcanon, it's basically this guy, Rick Nelson, was Manhunter for a brief time. Something happened to him, and he passed on the legacy to Paul Kirk, that existing character. In our headcanon, there's nothing in continuity that says that, but in our headcanon, that's kind of what we figured out.
So they weren't as stiff around it all back then, were they? That's the thing.
Yeah, and half the fun is trying to make sense of it all, to be honest. It's great. Yeah.
We did an episode a couple of months ago, prompted by the early 70s DC reprint series Wanted. Reprinted lots of Golden Age, Silver Age stories with, headlined by big famous sort of or just really just interesting supervillains. And there's one story we planned to use, which featured Dr. Fate, but then Peter discovered that the character name of the supervillain had been used by 3 other villains. So we thought, right, we can't just waste it. We need to do an episode on all the guys that share this name. And that's one of the things. I mean, everyone thinks of Legacy as being Hal Jordan following on from Alan Scott, or Wally West and Barry Allen following on from Jay Garrick, but we're kind of stretching it to highlight the sort of how often DC reused character names and stuff. A lot of it's quite interesting. It's, we sort of have running gags about when Pete can't sleep at night, he just sits up looking, scrolling the internet for character names being used.
Oh, okay.
There was a pause there.
In the same way that I spend my time scanning for foreign reprints of comics that we're covering.
Yeah.
So it's the legacy thing's the interesting thing, because initially we were just going to focus purely when we first talked about doing it, we were just going to do everything that started with Flash 2 Worlds and just had JSA related stories. But then I pointed out there was an issue of World's Finest where Superman and Batman met a different Crimson Avenger, and we were both aware of the different Starmen that appeared in Batman stories. So we we expanded a little bit with that. And then when it came to, we'd been doing it for a little while, and we became aware of stories that kind of talked about other dimensions in the same way that they talked about parallel realities. So we sort of thought, right, let's start doing stories with other dimensions, because in a lot of cases it lets us talk about other characters that we might not have used. So we've talked about the Teen Titans because of other dimensions. We're planning an episode based on an issue of Weird War Tales because it features another dimension. So it's good because it's given us more of a sense of what else was going on in the DC comics that were being published at the time. It's going to take longer to get through it all because we're doing this, but it's more interesting for us, I think, and it stops us from getting bored.
I think the thing is with DC compared to Marvel is I kind of see them as leaning into that legacy thing more than Marvel. I know Marvel do it now, but it's almost part and parcel of what DC's about for me. Learning when Earth 2 Batman did this, and Earth 2 Superman's costumes like this compared to this one. There's a lot of that going on, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good. The other thing I meant to say to you guys is, multiverse is a thing. I'm not sure if this is correct, but I heard recently, big shout out to the Breakfast in the Ruins, which is the Michael Moorcock podcast I listen to. And
that's an excellent show. I love that show.
Isn't it great? Yeah, really good.
I can't remember the host's name at the minute. Obviously his name. To me, he sounds like Howard from Take That, so he's great. Every so often do episodes based on James Herbert novels, and they're amazing.
Oh, the New English Library did one on them. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah. But the thing is, he quotes that the multiverse is a phrase that was invented by Moorcock, and I'm not sure if it is. But whilst DC does predate that, I guess they didn't maybe use that phrase. Is that right, guys? Do you know? Or
yeah, I mean, I don't think we've had anything. I mean, we're up to 1972. Our starting point was 1961, but we've done stories before, obviously from before that. Wonder Woman and Green Arrow and Tommy Tomorrow stories and stuff. Yeah. I don't think anyone's used the term multiverse yet, have they, Pete?
I can't think of any particular instance offhand. No.
Yeah.
It's origins of the term. I'm not sure. It might be that Michael did coin it. I couldn't say. That's something we'll have to keep our eyes open for.
Yeah, these phrases are sort of slowly shifting, aren't they? Gently drifting kind of things. Is that right? You'd say, yeah. I mean, it's hard to pin it down sometimes, but I wouldn't put it. I mean, Moorcock was active during that time, wasn't he, in the 60s?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. So what have been any recording highlights for you guys? I'm guessing there's some stuff here that you haven't read. You haven't to, go back and think, wow, fucking hell, that's great.
Yeah, well, we've discovered... Oh, on you go.
No, on you go.
Okay, yeah, we've discovered lots of really fascinating stories. As David mentioned there, the Tommy Tomorrow story,
right,
which is actually reprinted in the greatest 1950 stories, I think it is, collection, where Tommy Tomorrow goes to Parallel Earth and basically meets his duplicate, but throws him out of a window instantly because he has to take his place, which is hilarious. But stuff like that is just so much fun, and a lot of the early Batman stories and stuff we did. To be honest, when we started off the podcast, our plan was to kind of do a couple of stories and just talk through them per episodes, and we would have just zoomed through the whole thing. But then we kind of got to doing what we'd probably call more a dramatic reading, right?
Yes.
And,
I don't think there are listeners who haven't heard your show won't know this yet. I know we haven't mentioned this yet, but it's you do it. That's where it's different from a lot of podcasts. Is you read out the comic basically, don't you?
Yeah, because it's really hard. We got into a habit of acting it out properly, because once you hit that Silver Age Batman series and you've got the caption, "Meanwhile, back in the Batcave," there's no way you can say other than that.
Oh, I got chills.
There's no other way to do it. And then once you do that and you get into that habit, it's like, well, we're just going to be doing this every week, aren't we? Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Because the initial plan that I worked out was that we'd do both parts, so that JLA, JC team ups and say issue. If a couple of comics, I think it was one issue of the Atom and one issue of Green Lantern that I planned that we'd do together. Because I also listened to for a while a Defenders podcast called Defenders Dialogue.
Yeah.
Was it Chris Gold and Brian Keane, I think?
Right.
And they would tackle 3 or 4 issues at a time and just kind of roughly talk through them, talking about their favourite bits, highlights from the letters page. And that was really what I thought we would do as well. But I think we started to enjoy very much doing the character voices and stuff.
Yeah.
I've got really clear memories of us doing stuff like there was a Superman story. I think it was the Goliath Hercules one.
Yes.
When I had to play a professor, so I did my best, Peter Cushing, basically because we're sat in my living room and I'm trying to make Peter laugh while we're doing it. And he'd do the same. He would do Brian Blessed. I am Goliath Hercules. Doing that, and I'm sitting trying not to snigger into my hand. So it became a way of initially trying to make each other laugh whilst we were doing it. And then it got to the point where, we kind of evolved sort of types of voices for different people. Like whenever I try and do Superman, I'm doing my damnedest to try and do Christopher Reeve. But my sort of stock voice is just to do kind of, Ed Bishop's, Captain Blue, if I'm doing an American voice. But Pete does Batman in the style of Adam West.
Well, I have to do Adam West as the more panicky Adam West because normal West sounds a bit too much like the announcer, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have to always be elevated Batman.
And we've also become stuck with a particular way of doing Aquaman because of the way. And I know he's told this a couple of times on their own episode, but I would love Peter to tell you the story of why Aquaman sounds the way he does.
Yes, we did a fantastic Bob Haney story from Aquaman called From Ogre with Hate, which was obviously a James Bond pastiche.
Yeah.
Aquaman and Mira were undercover at this hotel as Mr. and Mrs. Waterman, which is
named after Dennis, obviously.
Lots of jokes about writing the theme tune.
Yeah. And basically, we thought, right, this is a whole 60s Bond pastiche, so I have to do Aquaman like Sean Connery. Sort of just, yes, Mira, we shall go and we shall take on the Huntress. So, yeah, we've done a really naff Scottish
I know you've said that
accent
because you stick with them, don't you? Because I know, who's the lady who does the Southern Belle voice?
Yeah.
Oh, Black Canary, yeah.
Black Canary. Doesn't a friend of somebody does it? They've had to stay with that now, haven't they? Because the first,
Yeah, we've had a couple of people do Black Canary, yeah. It started off with Vincent from my work doing Black Canary, and then
right, okay.
David's done Black Canary a few times, and my wife Christine's done Black Canary as well, and David's pal Kelly's done Black Canary gets around a lot. My goodness,
don't be like that.
Yeah.
Don't be like that.
Yes, everyone's done Black Canary.
Yeah,
because Vin was a big fan. Vin didn't know too much about Black Canary, so they did it as they were sort of influenced by their memories of Harley Quinn in the Batman animated series, the Daft Pudding sort of thing. So
yeah.
Did it as a Southern Belle. So so we just sort of kept that. So part of the trouble, poor Kels, when she was having to do her lines recently, it was sort of like I was kind of saying like we've always kind of done this kind of Kelly just thought she was going to just say the lines in her own voice, and it was like no, she attempt an American accent and try and make her sound a bit Southern, and she's like. Right, okay. But it turned out quite well. Not as good as the guy who played Little John, though. He was fantastic.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh God!
I didn't know it was you. I was listening to it, and
the character voices thing's a lot of fun. Like, because I do Wildcat generally, and was trying to do a kind of Sylvester Stallone sort of thing because Ted Grant's a boss.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Whenever I do Ray Palmer, I try and do him like Brandon Routh and Legends of Tomorrow. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
He gives Hawkman a bit of a John Hurt sort of pompous sort of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You
do a Gal Gadot for Wonder Woman, don't you?
Yes, it probably sounds nothing like her, to be honest. But yeah,
I'm sure it works for the audience.
Yeah,
works for me.
Jesus,
character voices are a lot of fun because I as I said earlier on, when Adam and Jeremy were doing their X-Men podcast, they would give Jean Grey a very squeaky voice, or exaggerate sort of teen voices if they were doing Kitty Pryde or some of the younger X-Men. But we eventually stopped trying to make each other laugh very quickly and decided to try and make it a bit more serious, because we didn't want it to sound like we were doing daft, silly voices every week. Because people that we are taking it seriously, not ripping the piss completely.
But still try and make it entertaining.
Every so often there's a crowd scene, or there's a scene with the pantheon of Greek gods, so we get to kind of show off a little bit and be a bit silly.
I get you. The thing is as well is so for those that haven't yet listened, but you need to, is you do the read through. But then the other thing I find fun is you go forward 2 or 3 issues, don't you? And you find the letters that were written about.
That's a great touch.
That issue. And it's interesting comparing fandom then. A lot of letters were printed of people who, let's say, weren't afraid to say what they thought, which I'm always impressed with, that they went with that,
Yeah.
That was Pete's idea to do. He came up with that idea very quickly, and it seemed like the obvious thing to do was get as well as call it, the contemporary correspondence. And it was most interesting when we were doing some Wonder Woman stories a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because, you think about people being entitled and possessive of characters nowadays, but 50 years ago it was probably even worse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Was that around the time they depowered her as well, I guess, or
just before?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They basically tried to do a Return to the Golden Age thing with her, and there was so much discussion in the letters page, it was bizarre. Before that, it was like Wonder Woman writing to Wonder Woman saying, "Oh, I think your hair looks pretty," that sort of thing, And then it's into serious discussions about continuity and character. Always serious discussions about continuity and character and direction and things, and just choices in the narrative. And it's such a jump from pretty hair, which literally was mentioned every single letter column before. And suddenly it's like people like Marv Wolfman writing in. You get I think Paul Levitz wrote in as well. So many future pros wrote in specifically on Wonder Woman. But the whole genesis of the doing the letters came from right back at the start, when we started a new of a Flash story that a couple of issues later Roy Thomas wrote in and basically said, I love what you're doing with Flash. I'd love it if you brought back these characters from the Golden Age. And they did. And Roy was probably the only person that was excited about these characters coming back from the Golden Age, because it was basically Winky, Blinky and Noddy, Jay Garrick's comedy sidekicks. And it worked for the wacky Golden Age, but it didn't work for the roughly science-based Barry Allen stories. And you can just imagine Roy at home going, "Yeah, this is great!" And then it's like no one else is interested into this. Roy, sorry.
So I'm like you guys. I love spotting future pros in letter columns and stuff like that. And the other thing I love spotting is guys we know. I just sent Simon Russell another screenshot of a letter he wrote into BEM in like 1982 or something.
Awesome.
I love that stuff. Yeah, but you were saying sometimes you think, I wonder if that, because I know you have had a couple of letters from Bruce Jones, haven't you? And you were like, I wonder if that's the same guy. Yeah.
I mean, it probably is, but it's hard to tell because it's quite a fairly common-ish name.
Fairly, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So those ones you can't really nail down, but people like Roy Thomas is well known for that. You've got people like Carrie Bates and Marty Pasco who used to write in. Irene Vartanoff used to write in quite a lot. She's a future pro. So many people. Yeah.
Was that David?
No, I was just saying Bob Rozakis pops up all the time.
Of course.
Yeah, recently,
The Answer Man, the future Answer Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing we must mention here actually is Peter mentioned the Flash story that brought back Jay Garrick's Golden Age sidekicks. I mean, they came back before Jay Garrick did. So, that's another little that we busted. It's not even like that Jay was the Golden Age Flash was the first Golden Age hero to come back. His sidekick get him to it, which, asked us earlier on about surprises, and that was one of the biggest ones for me. It was like, what? That was mind-blowing.
I mean, I don't know whether you planned this or not, but there does seem to be a passion for that legacy thing now, what with the multiverse being spread across a lot of the movies. And, we had the Stargirl TV series and, all the CW shows seem to bring people. I was upset when they killed Vigilante in was it in Green Arrow, I think, wasn't it? They killed him in that. It's just, there is a passion for that now, isn't there? I think it's almost like collecting cards. It's almost like Pokemon, isn't it? They want to see them all, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely true.
CW a lot of of good stuff with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, he did Crisis on Earth X, then he did their own filmed in a car park Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was
I know,
really terrible, which was really good on the, the terms that they did. I mean, you're saying it. I remember when they killed off Captain Cold, and then they killed off Professor Stein. It was devastating. It was like, oh my goodness, because you've known these characters for through the comics for years and seen them brought to life. Well, it's quite affecting. Yeah. But multiverses, it's everywhere at the moment. Be it Everything Everywhere All at Once or Spider-Man and Doctor Strange or the Flash movie. It's something that's it's not a difficult concept for general audiences to buy into nowadays.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because it was uncomplicated. It was seen, I think, at DC as being too complicated for readers to understand. So we got Crisis, and then they seem to have reversed that. They seem to be making cash out of complicating it again. I think
the issue is though that like the problem with multiverses, and you can and have done many brilliant stories based around them. But the issue is, where are the stakes when there's a million versions of your favourite character?
Yeah. There's also an oversaturation stake there somewhere, isn't there? Yeah.
It's and it's for me. I'm tired of it, but it's fascinating seeing the older versions of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's almost like modern multiverse storytelling doesn't quite have the nuance and fun of what it used to be. That makes me sound like a whinging old man. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
mean, it used to be fun because there would be a little twist on a character where you'd know which one it was, wouldn't there? Yeah. Visually, I think sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to interrupt you, Pete. Sorry.
They wouldn't always hang around either, would they? Would they normally? Because I know now there's a multiverse, and now we get three comic book series based out of a character you saw for half an issue. But,
Off Gwenpool,
But with the issues that you guys cover, obviously there's lots of different characters. But did they do a lot more with these characters once they were in this story, or was it just?
I mean, Seven Soldiers of Victory, they're not characters who appeared loads, are they? During vast periods of DC's history, I'm guessing.
No. They come back in this story we've just done, which you all ably helped us with. Especially the guy who played the Shining Knight. He was excellent. They crop up over a few issues of Adventure Comics in a couple of years. And then, that's basically it until All-Star Squadron. The story's sort of done. You think they're bringing them back for a glorious return to their own comic, but Vigilante hangs around a lot. And this is the next episode that's due out.
You're a fan of that character, aren't you? I am as well, I have to say.
It's another story with the Earth One Vigilante, so we have a bit of a chat about how that was sort of handled or addressed in the comics, or not. To further answer the question, we did a Green Lantern story about 3 years ago, which was one that a listener made us aware of, which neither of us knew about. I think it was a story in Green Lantern issue 32 where he slips into a parallel universe where he's in the brink of getting married to Carol Ferris, and this version of Green Lantern, to the best of my knowledge, never came back. And it's been used as a sort of as a universe for stories that don't quite fit into the continuity and in various sort of handbooks and stuff. Yeah. But there's not been as many sort of one-off random parallel universe versions of people as we sort of expected. There was a really good Superboy one early on when we started. I can't remember the issue numbers. And then we ended up with the issue after it had a parallel version of the Legion in it as well, which is quite good. Yeah. But there's not been as many as you might sort of expect. I think the restraint actually was quite admirable that they didn't churn out dozens and dozens of duplicates. And I think as far as the Crisis, it's a good long time before we're going to get to the Crisis, but I think certain stories probably made it worse. Like there's a Justice League, Justice Society story that deals with Black Canary around about issue 220, which I'm dreading. Right. Not only for the fact it's complicated, but there's a guest appearance from another DC character, and it's obvious that Roy Thomas, I think, who wrote it, hadn't read everything that had been done with Sargon the Sorcerer.
Yeah. Right.
70s, so even that's going to be contrary. So I'm going to have a headache after we do that one.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. The thing is, as well, people think that Crisis was where it all got sort of explained and everything. But for me, it was All-Star Squadron. I remember buying issue 1 in a newsagent's, and it just like, and then there was that, I can't remember which issue is it. There's the scene where they literally show them all in a meeting.
Yes.
I remember poring over that page and thinking, who's that character? Who's that character?
The double page spread.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. I think if those double page spreads probably hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't be doing the podcast, to be honest.
Yeah,
because
that's
All-Star Squadron,
fair to say. Yeah,
the series that really cemented my absolute love for the Golden Age guys. My earliest memory of encountering the other versions of Flash and Green Lantern were the issues of the Justice League where they killed off the original Mr. Terrific. And I remember at the age of 6, I think it would have been just being fascinated by this blonde Green Lantern in the red shirt and this other version of the Flash with a Mercury helmet, because they just seemed so much more interesting.
yeah.
Right.
And I've really lost that fascination. And obviously, All-Star Squadron, when I became a sort of proper, full-on DC collector, in the early 90s, when I was like 18, 19 sort of thing, that was the story. Those were the stories that really just were the most satisfying and the most enjoyable and the most interesting. There's something, because we didn't see the Golden Age guys around so much, they were just that little bit more interesting as a result.
Yeah, they really were. When they, and it's a bit like when you read the Legion or something like that. It's almost like you're trying to make sure you know everyone. I suppose it's the OCD collector in us, isn't it? Where we're trying to, who's that character? What's that costume? Why is Cosmic Boy wearing a basque? There's this sort of question going on, isn't there?
Because he can.
Yeah.
People can do
no basque shaving in this podcast.
I mean, talking about the Legion, I have all these moments. What did I do yesterday? I can't remember, but can I give you the secret identities or the civilian names of everybody?
I remember I've got a book somewhere where I wrote down Interlac so I could translate what was on the monitor board in the background.
Fantastic.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. I had a brief period when I could read Interlac. It was useful.
yeah, at least for our future lives, David. Yeah, lucky us. Yeah.
Teach in schools. That's what I want to know.
The thing as well as that really I find interesting is the fact that you do a weekly podcast of this, and we do a weekly podcast where we get together and talk fucking nonsense, 2 hours, unscripted, but you two get together and you literally read a comment. It's like so organized. I mean, you must be thinking, I'm finishing, I've got to catch the bus by 3:30, get home and record, and sometimes you do it in person. Do you meet up and do it, I'm guessing? Or
yeah, it's probably 50-50 between. Yeah, Pete comes over to Pete comes over to mine on his day off. If I've got the day clear, if I can keep the day clear, we worked out a remote way of doing it quite early on. Where basically I record my audio on my old phone at my side as we have a call through Facebook Messenger, and then Dropbox my audio to Pete, and he glues the 2 bits together.
Oh, mate!
You're
a saint, Pete.
Rather than call it a conversation or a Zoom conversation, which
I'm a nutter, yes.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. This is the thing where I lose sleep and where I constantly kind of have to defer and take my hat to Pete, because we decided very early on we wanted it to sound as good as possible. Because some podcasts, I'm not going to name names. Yours is fine, obviously.
Fine. We're just fine.
No, I mean, look, what I mean is I'm not the criticism I'm going to throw at others, I'm not going to throw at yours, because yours is good. But you get the odd podcast where someone sounds a lot quieter than the others, or there's
yeah, I've all been there, man. Yeah.
Things in the background. We're very careful about wanting to sound as good as possible, and the fact that I'm astonished, quite frankly, that we've never in all the time we've been doing it, we've never missed a week.
Yeah, that's good now.
Some other podcasts that do similar things where maybe only once a month or once a fortnight, and so I said to Peter a while ago, it's bloody good that we do this, which is why Peter's intro has sort of shifted in recent episodes to emphasise the fact that we're weekly.
Yeah. But the consistency is what gets you a good reputation and also gets people coming back. I think we found that we put it out at the same time every week. Yeah, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff.
So it's a big commitment. Never mind having to
fucking massive commitment.
Yeah, God, yeah.
It eats my life, but it's fine.
but do you find yourself doing?
I can hear him crying.
Yeah. Do you find yourself doing voices in the middle of the night, Pete, where the man upstairs is trying to sleep, and you're like, "Oh, what? Make me a sandwich, wife."
I don't do voices in the middle of the night. I do point and clicking the laptop in the middle of the night.
How do you cue yourself into doing the different voices? So you got I've got Batman, then I've got Aquaman. I'm thinking, how does he speak again? Or a character you've only done once or twice.
Yeah, you've got to have done someone that you think, oh fuck me, I've got to do that again. Why did I start that?
Yeah. A lot of the time they're just sort of generic sort of attempts at American accents. been a couple of times when
I can't do accents.
Back, but
We know.
there's not really been too many people. I mean, there was one. I can't think of it now, but there was one sort of something we'd done where I'd kind of done it in a certain way and had to try and remember. I mean, we did an episode on Jerry Lewis last year, so I spent an evening watching Jerry Lewis clips on YouTube to try and get a Jerry Lewis voice. I was probably completely unsuccessful, but it's okay. To be honest, we don't really have to psych ourselves up for it. I think quite often we'll look at a character and sort of think, all right, they look a little bit like that actor or actress, so we'll just do them like that. Or for variety, we'll pitch it higher or pitch it lower. We tend to, if we're doing policemen, we quite often do them Irish. We decided recently that Dr. Midnight would be Scottish. We've done him a couple of times, but I think there's a guy who supports us quite well on Twitter. Don't know his real name. He uses the handle multiverses story, and he's you think we're obsessive. He's above and beyond with some of the stuff he does, and he'd posted on his blog a sort of theory that Dr. McNider might have been of Scottish descent. So when our pal Gavin helped us with one of the Justice League crossovers last year, he gave him a sort of Dundonian sort of twist, and my pal Kenny from the Doctor Who podcasts Pieces of Eight and Power of Three, plugs for Kenny there, because he's an Aberdeen fan, he kind of did his Dr. Midnight as a sort of Aberdonian Adam West, which was amazing. So with recurring guys, we try and kind of, I suppose, in our head keep a bit of a hook as to who we think of a certain person, be it Adam West or Christopher Reeve. I was trying to make the Flash when we did the recent JLA story that you were all in. I tried to make him a little bit Ezra Miller without making him too Ezra Miller, just for the sake of making him not. Because I ended up doing about 6 or 7 people, and to try and make him sound different from everyone else. That's the hardest thing, is trying to make the voices sound different from everyone else, because sometimes you have to have a conversation with yourself, which is amusing. And that's one of the reasons why we got other people involved in JLA 100 to 102, because there was so many speaking parts.
Yeah, been too much. But I know you said you recorded placeholders, didn't there? So it's actually a version of you just doing the voices somewhere out there, isn't there?
Yeah, but we just kind of spoke through them, really, to be honest.
Right. Okay.
When we weren't swearing at each other and throwing things around the room.
Speak for yourself, sir. Speak for yourself.
We recorded all 3 episodes of that in one day.
Fucking hell. The thing is, the other question I had for you as well, I know when I asked you this, David, when we met, is I suppose the app must be great for you guys, the DC app, because I know Pete is clearly a millionaire because he has a lot of early world's finest, etc., don't you? But,
I have one.
What issue 9? Have we mentioned that?
Issue 9. That's it.
Got the Joker in it. There you go.
But
early Joker appearance. There you go. I'm not going to give you the best though.
Yeah, but the sourcing that stuff must be quite difficult, because it's not all out there, is it? Really, you have to search around for it a bit, I'm guessing.
Well, both of us have been collecting for far more years than we'd like to admit, probably.
Yeah. You want to tell your missus. Yeah.
Right now, I'm sitting in a room surrounded by about 26,000 comics.
Yeah.
And Dave's got a kitchen that basically is built from long boxes.
I call my back room Long Box Mountain. Yeah, I feel your pain, my friend. Yeah. So, but, I mean, also you work in a comic shop. Do you mind us saying this, Pete?
No, that's fine. On you go.
Yeah, you work in Food and Planet, which is a great shop. Yep. You gave me a tour, didn't you, like the other day? But that must be a good way to just see if stuff's about, if it's in archive material and stuff like that.
It is, yeah. Plus, we've got some really good regular customers and a few people who have got even bigger collections than us. And this wouldn't be the first time that we've borrowed something from, one of them to, actually read from. So it's people have been really helpful to us. So sourcing, and as you said yourself, a lot of stuff's on the app, which is quite handy. The app's not great.
It's not complete, is it, by any stretch? Yeah.
It really annoyed me when I first got it, and I thought, oh, that's fine. Action Comics 1, let's go to Action Comics 1 and have a read at all the stories in it. And it literally just reprints the Superman story.
There's a lot of big gaps. I know we talked about. They've started doing Warlord actually. I know it's one of the ones we talked about, which is a seminal run to me. But it's they only seem to have about 10 issues of it on there and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a lot of missing. I like to think they're adding things slowly, but I'm not overly confident it's all going on there. Yeah,
and of course all the licensed properties they can't put on it anyway. So that's sort of stuff you do have to find physical copies of. So that's fun.
What about other sort of sources of information do you use? I mean, I'm guessing Tomorrows and stuff like that are invaluable, are they? Or
yeah, it has been.
Yeah, a lot of it's their own knowledge. Without wanting to sound too arrogant. But some of the Tomorrow's books, like the JLA Companion or the All-Star Companions, or
the Flash books are good as well, aren't they? Those ones.
Yeah.
Like a lot of podcasts, we make a lot of use of Mike's Amazing World of Comics for publication dates and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
the comics themselves are a good resource as well, because very early on we were recording a Superboy or Superman story, and it made reference in one of the letters that we covered. Made reference to a story we didn't know about, so we literally had to go check what's this, and we were talking about a super. So we had to then get hold of this Superman story that this letter person mentioned. And as I say, a couple of people here and there have pointed out suggestions to us, and every now and then we find something that we think, oh right, we should have done that. Or there was a Zatara story where he guest starred in an Elongated Man story, and we'd missed that completely somehow, despite the fact that Mike's had mentioned it. So we did that. We ended up doing that probably about a year and a half after we should have done, but we did it, or we did a Zatanna story, so it kind of fitted. There's another one, we're about to do the first issue of Shazam, so we recorded a story the other night from an issue of Action Comics that we'd vaguely thought about doing when it was published, in the timeline, but it works better as a sort of curtain raiser to Cap coming back. It's every so often we'll think of something like, I remember actually going into CP the day after we put out our episode on Justice League 37 and 38 and realised that we hadn't mentioned the Western Johnny Thunder. So I thought, right, how are we going to do this? We thought, right, we'll do this issue of Showcase that has him. We'll do it when that comes out, because I think that's about the only time I think we've missed, something. Yeah. But randomly one night I came across a Johnny Quick story where he fought a gangster who called himself the Spectre. So that was an obvious one to do. It's a little bit of character reuse, and it's stuff like that pops up occasionally. It's nice to be surprised. Because we have a long list all made up. Peter's spreadsheet, I've got my handwritten notes and stuff. But every so often we'll think, oh, maybe we could do this or maybe we could do that, because there's some other comics coming up quite soon where, like the Shadow, for example, DC published a Shadow series and launched via a guest appearance in Batman. So we thought, right, we can do this because the Shadow's a Falp character from around the Golden Age. We're going to do the Captain Strong character because he's based on Popeye, that sort of thing. That makes sense. I was rambling terribly there.
No, it does. Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And as part of Legacy as well, we did a non-DC character. We did the MF Enterprises version of Captain Marvel.
Yes,
from the 60s. The guy that says, the android who says splits and all his arms.
Another one.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Because
those stories are ridiculous.
I'd thought that I don't know if you've heard that episode. It's one of our favourites. We did it quite early on. This version of Captain Marvel, he has villains with the names like Colonel Cold and the Bat and the Ray, and there's a guy called Dr. Fate.
Right, okay.
He's called Dr. Fate, who basically looks like 80s, 90s Bruce Forsyth. And he's French, which I totally failed to first time I read them through. So I just sort of thought, I can mention this Dr. Fate when we do the Showcase issues that Dr. Fate and Hourman are in. And then Peter said, we should do a full episode. And I was like, yeah. So that was when it got a really good response. A couple of people were a bit kind of like, all right, can we just stick to the Golden Age DC stuff, please? But we thought, no, we're going to...
Yeah.
The reuse of the character names is just too funny not to use. I mean,
the first issue of that one had a character called Plastic Man.
That's right.
Which they came back in the second issue, and you could see that it had been changed in the lettering to say Elastic Man.
Yeah. The thing is, your podcast is mostly character centric, so you mostly concentrate on, like you say, like legacy characters and talking about who and that. I mean, it's not so creator focused, I guess, but you do. I have learned loads about Gardner Fox and all these sort of guys. You do stray into the area where you have to research, I'm guessing, or talk about talk about backgrounds of and other work and origin stories of the creators rather than the characters, I suppose. I know you did the Kirby stuff as well, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, we did an episode on Kirby arriving at DC. Filled with his Jimmy Olsen stuff, which is good because despite having owned the full run for 30 years, I'd never read it all, so that was quite good. But we also one thing that I'm sure people remember is that when we were doing the issues of the Spectre, was people didn't like Neil Adams, did they?
Okay,
no, not at all. It was weird. So
all these letters, people writing in saying, Neil Adams is terrible, get him off, blah blah blah, and we were sitting looking at it going, these are literally some of the best comics we've ever seen in our lives, and it just shows you how far ahead of the game.
People don't like change, do they? It's like when McMahon was on Slain in 2000 AD, isn't it? Do you remember? Everyone kicked off because he wasn't Ballardinelli, but it was a sea change for art in a way. That
But that Spectre run, one of the earliest. In fact, I think it was the first Neil Adams one. Had the first published Mike Friedrich story in it.
Okay, he's an interesting bloke.
Yeah, and it's a very it's a very mature story for the time. And it's way before, what people think of as the Bronze Age coming in, but it feels really, really, really Bronze Agey.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I definitely recommend that you read that. I think it's Spectre issue 3, isn't it?
Yeah, something
interesting.
Yeah, and Wildcat's in it as well. And the artwork's fantastic, and the storyline's really surprisingly mature, considering the Spectre is like bashing planets over a demon every other week.
Yeah, I know you guys disagree on, or you don't disagree, but you say there's some movement in when people say the Bronze Age came in, because I kind of if you read the internet, the common argument is that it's Conan 1, isn't it? But you actually think it's before that, I'm going to say. Is that right?
Well, I think that's kind of like that issue of the Spectre for me is kind of like the John the Baptist of Jesus coming. It's kind of like a precursor to, precursor to the Bronze Age. But for me, the Bronze Age is when Kirby leaves.
I've heard you argue that. Yeah, it's an interesting argument. That isn't it? I can see what you mean. Yeah.
It's such a big change for both companies. Everything changes with that. Obviously, there's a Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and you've got the Conan, different points of view as well. But for all these things, there's never a definite cut-off. There's always a sliding scale of these things. I mean,
it's always a retrospective cut-off anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
it's very difficult to sort of say this is where. I mean, and if someone was to ask me, I would say you'd have to read stories published between 1970 and 1972 to experience the full sort of shift, because you've got stuff like the death of Gwen Stacy and the Punisher sort of appearing, and that shows a real shift from the naive sort of simplistic sort of Superman stuff that was still going on. I mean, we did those Spectre Neil Adams stories, and then some of the other stuff we did immediately afterwards felt like a step back to decades past. It is very fluid. It's quite easy to tell when the Silver Age has stopped. I think we're well into that now. I would say we're in about once we started writing the JLA regularly, I think there was a real proper shift.
But there's even some Bob Haney stuff later on that feels Silver Agey, doesn't it? To me, the sort of team up books,
I love Bob Haney. Absolutely adore Bob Haney. Yeah,
just a few of those coming very soon. The Raven Bolds with Sergeant Rock and Black Canary and Welcome. I mean, that one thing we decided to do with Sergeant Rock was because he was a World War character, sort of based around World War II, but he was appearing in stories with Batman. It was like, right, the sort of one ongoing thing that we're going to do is try and work out which Earth was Sergeant Rock on, because he's having an adventure with Batman set during World War II, so that has to be the Batman of Earth 2.
Yeah.
But next time he appears, it seems to be a little contrary to that. It seems to be completely set during the contemporary time, where it's the Earth 1 Batman. I mean, as we're going, we're trying to kind of rationalise some of this stuff, but we're finding how difficult it is to actually do that. The vigilante thing's another example.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about the New Gods, man. I think that when he gets to Jimmy Olsen and we start getting that's so Bronze Age to me. That whole creation of that universe. I know what you mean. More so than Conan, which essentially was an adaptation of a prehistoric book, wasn't it? When you look at it,
And also it meant that Marvel had to change what they were doing, because obviously they were fairly reliant on Kirby for ideas and for their artwork and everything. So they really had to do a big shake-up at Marvel and change their ideas there as well. So it's not just DC affected. So it's a big enough change for both companies that I think it's probably the best gauge, I would say.
When are you going to do the Atlas podcast? I'd like to listen to that.
Well, we are going to cover some Atlas comics.
Oh, yeah.
At some point.
I tried to call your bluff there.
He did, but that's just so mental. I mean, I love it,
No,
Yeah.
it's quite far off though, but yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do one episode, I think, on the Atlas comics because, as we say, there's some DC character names that are reused. There's a tarantula. There's a police character with a Manhunter sort of subtitle.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So
Lomax.
we're going
Is it
to
Lomax? Yeah.
So we're going to do. It'll probably just be an episode. I mean, I've already got a few foreign reprints of comics lined up. I've got scrounging the web for a few pages of original art where I can find them.
Mhm.
I think what we'll probably do is similar to what we did with MF Enterprises. Is there'll probably be a bit of overview chat, and then we'll maybe read one or two that are character, properly character.
I mean, it breaks it up a bit for you guys as well, doesn't it? It makes it sort of fun, doesn't it?
And it's fun to do that because it shows, it gives the listeners an overall sense of what else is going on. I mean, we are planning at least one, I think 2 definite episodes where we'll read Marvel comics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To
Judas.
Our interest.
So, I mean, obviously you've dealt with so many different characters and you had so many different storylines and stuff. Here's a question for you. One, this is going to be in 2 parts. One, who do you think is probably your favourite character from the reading currently? I know that's a hard one to narrow down. And 2, who is a character that you weren't really fussed about, but through reading you became a fan of?
Oh, you can go
Very
first.
tough one. Oh, cheers, babes. Well, my favourite character has always been the Flash, Barry Allen Flash, the pre-crisis one, because the current version isn't right. He died. His death should have a meaning. That's it. Okay. And I've got a full run apart from his first 2 issues, 105 and 106. So yes, I'm a bit of a Flash fan. So, but yeah, I would say he's definitely my favourite. That's for what's that?
I said you're a very funky Flash man. I've seen you dance.
Cheers! Thank you.
I actually think the Flash has got the second best rogues gallery in the DC universe.
Totally.
Yeah. No, but Flash for me, and that's for the second part. I think Robbie Reed's Dial H for Hero is a character that I've always just was aware of, really, but not hugely read the stories properly. But going back and reading those, they're just glorious. They're very formulaic. It's almost like the Incredible Hulk TV series. Robbie changes 3 times in every story, but it's inventive. It's just literally he's 3 different characters for every story, and he solves the problem. Again, Silver Age DC wasn't hugely about character. It was all about solving the problem and made it very, very accessible for kids and just fun. And especially Robbie Reed was just pure entertainment, because you never know what you're going to get from turning the page. I mean, you could turn into like a human buzzsaw. In one story, he actually turned into Plastic Man, and this is before DC actually had Plastic Man. So, it's so bizarre. DC had the rights to the character, but they hadn't actually used him yet.
All right. Plastic Man's such an interesting character because he used to be a villain, didn't he? He started off as a villain first. Yeah,
Eel O'Brien. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
He shot and fell into some acid, and then had an enlightening experience. And
it's so crazy that character got his own animated show. And I remember the Plastic Man TV show. That was how I didn't know he was a comic book beforehand because I was a little kid.
Oh right.
And those old sort of they used to. Was it? I can't remember what channel they used to be showed on, but it was like a comedy, wasn't it? It was like almost like a sitcom, the Plastic one.
Yeah.
It didn't have like audience laughter or something like that as well. I think.
I remember seeing that. Yeah. I think that's I thought them too. I think. Yeah.
It's perfect character for animation. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Got to be in it. Yeah. What about you, David?
Well, it's a difficult one. Like, I'm going to fudge my answer. It's the best way I can answer it. What I found interesting is reappraising characters that I know very well from their kind of 90s, 2000s sort of incarnation.
Yeah.
Spectre. I've completely reappraised the Spectre, and that was, I've always, because I was a big fan of the John Ostrander series that ran through the 90s.
Yeah.
Read all that. So it's very interesting that the stories that we've done, Jim Corrigan and the Spectre have been very separate people, and I had to break the habit very quickly of referring to the Spectre as Jim, because I tend to do that if I'm telling the story of his character I tend to refer to him as the character's sort of Christian.
Yeah.
In a similar sort of way, I'm always very excited when Hourman and Sandman pop up because I know them so well from stuff that was done in the 90s and beyond, and it's sort of interesting sort of when you're used to, you know, Matt Wagner and Guy Davis, it's really interesting when Wesley Dodds pops up and he's firing little guns that turn people into concrete or sends out little clouds of stuff. It's I'm trying to think of after we did the one issue of House of Mystery where Robbie Reed turned into Plastic Man, I went out and collected a full run of Dial H for Hero. I'd had an almost full run in the past and got rid of them, but I'd enjoyed the issue that we did and the other one that we did soon after so much that I went out and collected the full run. So that's probably my answer to that as well. It wasn't a concept that I paid a lot of attention to. And for a couple of weeks I was trying to nag Peter and I was doing a Dial H for Hero podcast once every month.
You're always suggesting a new podcast. That's what makes me laugh.
So we might do that. If when we finish the Earth 2 podcast, you know, after a couple of weeks of a break, I think there's a good chance we might do a Dial H for Hero thing because there's a lot less of it to cover, and it's a concept I think we both really sort of, it really caught my imagination. You know, when we did one story, Robbie's such a likeable character, and there was some real pathos to some of the other heroes that he changed into, and I was really fascinated by that because I hadn't paid any attention to it at all.
Yeah, and again, it's funny you should mention. Sorry, mate, come. Sorry.
And again, when you go, cool. And again, it's a concept that follows on through the Bronze Age because you've got the Adventure Comics run with Chris.
Yes, which is where I really got into them. Yeah. And then with the more
recent versions of it, the Hero series that Will Pfeiffer did,
really good,
was amazing,
really imaginative with the format. I think,
4 people read it, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those. I think when you mentioned Sandman there, Sandman's a character that's like, fucking hell, that makes Hawkman look organised. When you think about all the characters that have been Sandman, because you had, you know, the Jeff Johns, James Robinson JSA appearances, you had the Kirby character, you've obviously got the Vertigo character, you know, you've got the Mystery Theatre character. There's all sorts of things going on with that, aren't there?
Yeah,
you know?
they're all a lot more distinct from each other, though.
Yeah.
Unlike Hawkman, which, you know, could have been handled, could have been simplified a lot more easily. You know, in the 80s and 90s, people just, you know, I think where Hawkman went wrong was the decision where they tried to say that the Golden Age Hawkman had been the Silver Age Hawkman, because there was some stuff post Crisis that was, you know, and also I think if they'd said Hawkworld had been set 10 years earlier, that might have made it a lot easier.
Yeah, it should have been almost been an Elseworld to me, the Tim Drayman stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Hawkman could have been fixed a lot more, you know, I'll rephrase that. Hawkman would not have got into the mess he got into if a couple of people had maybe paid a bit more attention at certain points, I think.
Yeah. I did like the Jeff Johns stuff. I quite liked that, actually. I found it sort of quite readable.
Yeah, you know? I read it when it started. I remember because it followed a kind of very similar format to Starman in a lot of ways, because you got occasional facts and occasional guest appearances and stuff. It was very good. And Rags Morales drawn it, of course.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Oh, I used to love him when, was it Geomancer, and then he drew Our Man, obviously.
Yeah, cool. What about you two guys, Vince and Dan? Who are your sort of not A-list DC characters, but more your sort of down the pecking order bit characters?
Oh, what you mean, sort of like B-lists, sort of
C-list, Z-list? Yeah.
Oh, it depends what you consider A-list. I mean, I'll put aside I just because I like the buddy comedy of Blue Beetle and Booster Gold.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
When you had like the JL Justice League with Booster Gold and Guy Gardner in.
Yeah.
So that's not too old really in going back, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still very readable.
Oh, totally.
Stuff.
Yeah. Around that time as well, like I was reading a lot of was it Justice League Europe? Do you remember Bart Sears Justice League Europe and stuff?
Yeah.
Is it Metamorpho?
Yeah.
He was he was great in that series.
I was laughing on the train this morning on the way into the Comic Mart because you compared to him forming himself into a tank and firing off as an ejaculative move.
Yeah, I gave him a row for that because our friend Steve Higgins, who's contributed a few voices for us over the years, he listens to the show with his 11-year-old daughter, and there was we were talking the other day about when we were recording, and Pete described the character as a fluffer for someone else. We can't have not going to have Steve have to explain to Caitlin what a fluffer is, you know, cut that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, our show's very family friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, us too.
That was another thing. Another thing right from the start.
Manson family friendly, yours is.
I'm a massive. I think you two should do an ambush bug podcast because I'd listen to that. That'd be good. He's a forgotten creature, really, isn't he? Everyone thinks, oh, look, Deadpool. Ambush bug. Come on, guys. Do you know? Yeah.
There is some ambush bug stuff we possibly could cover. Yeah.
It's pre-crisis, isn't it? I'm guessing.
Yeah, pre-crisis when it first started, appeared. DC Comics Presents 52. There you go. With the Doom Patrol, where he kills someone. But but they soon forget about that when he comes back in 59, and it's all comedy with the Legion of Substitute Heroes. Yeah. Which is a great issue, an absolutely amazing issue.
Right.
That story is so funny.
Giffin's great, man. So good. I love Giffin.
Yeah.
Do you know I bought a page of his artwork for $20 at New York about 5 years
that's
ago?
a steal.
That's a Falp. And then I met him, and he was so lovely.
Yeah.
He's got a reputation of being a grumpy fucker, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he was absolutely fucking well, me too, I suppose. So maybe we were right. But yeah, what a lovely fucking geezer. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's cool. What was the page from?
It was from, you're like this, it was from Justice.
Yes.
What, the new universe?
The universe.
Yeah, he did one issue of that.
I forgot he'd done that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Was that Peter David scripting at that point, or was it?
I can't remember. I keep meaning to get it. I've got it framed, but I want to reframe it with the cover as well. Do one of those sort of framing things.
Yeah.
With it, and I do have an issue of it that I bought for like 10p somewhere. Yeah. But that
I'd
is
love
good.
to do a new universe podcast. I'm still
just for the DP7 quote every week.
I was in second year at high school or something when it started, and any time I see an issue in a 50p bin or something I don't have, I'll just grab it because it was the newsstand distribution over here was so patchy. Got issues over a couple of months, and I remember thinking, Starbrand was fascinating. It felt so grown up compared to everything else, and my nostalgia undimmed. I think I've never sat down and made up a list of all the new universe comics to collect, but I'll probably sure do it one day. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did a podcast on Starbrand, and there's a few strange things happening in it. He's a man who loves to have lots of affairs with different women, but it's JR. It's all right. Later it's Burn, which when it goes completely wacky. But I liked it. It's all right. Yeah.
The thing that struck me reading, I read some early Starbrand not that long ago, and the thing that struck me was just and this is good because we're not in their own podcast, so I can be as rude as I like. the younger girl that he's kind of carrying on with called Debbie. Yeah. And he calls her Debbie the Duck, and there's all these jokes about quack quack, and I realised reading it as an adult, they're about fanny farts.
Oh my god!
I never got that. And it's me, and I never got that. So well done, sir.
Obviously, when I'm reading that at the age of 13, I'm thinking, why did he call her Debbie the Duck? There's a shot of them, a shot of the open bedroom door, and they're inside and they're chatting, and somebody says quack quack, and you're just like, what the hell's going on? Then you read it, you sort of go, wow, that's what Shooter was doing.
I actually think that's one of the dodgier relationships that go on, because she ain't, as my mother used to say, right in the head, is she?
Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah. It's a horrible thing to put out there. And then there's the married woman who with the two kids who he's carrying on with. But it was interesting. I remember it was basically just their riff and this is getting away from the point.
That's what this show does.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Starbrand. It's not a Starbrand podcast.
Well, I think thanks for asking. My favourite character would be
Oh, sorry, T.
That's right. My favourite character would be Green Arrow, because I don't know if you know this. He's from Hounslow.
Yeah, he is.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I was not aware of that until recently.
Right, I'm going to tell you what exactly the quote, because I know you quoted it, but Pete said to me, you can do an accent if you want to, and I said to Pete, I can't do accents, I'll just do it in my own voice, and you went, okay. Yeah, so that's how that worked out. The other two members of this podcast did fucking fantastically well. I listened to it, and my anus turned inside out. I was cringing so badly at my terrible acting. Yeah.
But it gave us
go for it.
Great, you were really good.
Yeah.
So you're very kind. You're both very kind.
No, it's true. I wouldn't say if I didn't mean it. We're very lucky that everyone that joined in took it seriously. I think was it 21, 22 different people altogether.
Wow, it's great.
Yeah.
From immediate friends and family to my friend Kelly. She lives in France now. So then probably scattered all over America. Like 5 of my work colleagues. Let me try and work this out. Arian, Cammy, Logan, Mick, and Jonathan. Yeah, 5 of my work colleagues all contributing at various times. You guys, obviously, Brandon Peters did a few for us, which I was delighted by because I love his podcast. Shag Matthews did Metamorpho for us. Ranger Gord, who does a dedicated Vigilante podcast, like we asked him to do Vigilante.
He was great. And that little voice note he leaves you as well. That dude's literally a cowboy, isn't he? I think.
Yeah. He's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
He posted on his Facebook page saying, when 50 odd years ago, a young ranger picked up this issue and his mind was blown meeting all these characters as he encountered Vigilante for the first time, and now all these years later, the circle closes as I'm giving his voice for Peter and David's adaptation. And I read this and I was tearing up. I was going, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing!" So it's been a really fun experience doing these recent Justice League issues. So honestly, we're not overstating it. Thank you all for joining in because
it's good fun, man.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, no convincing needed. We love your podcast.
Worked at all,
Good. Well, I suppose the big question is, what's the long eye, guys? I mean, are you hoping to finish this before you die, or what's the sort of plan?
I'm going to finish it after I die.
Yeah.
Make doing the Spectre's voice easier.
It'll be what kills us. Well, I mean, we seem to be, we've been doing it for 4 years. We started ostensibly in 1961. We're speeding through 1972 at the moment. There's not a lot going on in the early 70s, but towards the end of the 70s, it gets quite stodgy with like All-Star Comics and Wonder Woman and World's Finest and Superman family stories and All-Star Squadron starting, obviously. But so the way
are you doing Captain Carrot comics?
Yeah, we're going to do Captain Carrot.
Nice, cool.
At least 3 issues, I think. The way that we're going to do things is going to change. When we get to stuff like All-Star Squadron, it's going to be impossible to do full readings of those because it's so dense.
Really, isn't it? Yeah.
Roy was just writing prose by that point, really. So we've got an idea how we're going to do it. Like, we've already done a few episodes where we've prepared summaries and I've read them out and then we've discussed. So it'll probably be a bit like that as we go on. But obviously, the Superman family, Clark and Lois stories, they're all really short, so we'll probably do 3 or 4 of them in one go.
Yeah.
I reckon it's going to take us at least another 5-6 years, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd actually proposed that we finish on Crisis on Infinite Earths 10, which is 2 issues before the end of the series. Because at the end of that issue...
Just to fuck with people.
At the end of that issue, the multiverse ends. And I think that would have been great. But no, we're going to have to complete the series. And then there's a whole period thereafter where DC don't have a clue what they're doing. And we could call it kind of like Crisis Hangover, where they've got these other characters and they're all on the one Earth, but they really don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And there's other dimensions involved. There's a mental...
They've been doing that since, I think, haven't they?
Yeah. There's a mental Teen Titans Spotlight issue where there's an alternate future in another dimension. The Brotherhood of Evil are involved. And basically it's like Commandy, but he's actually Tintin. And it's crazy, and it's like, well, we need to cover that because that's just mental.
Yeah, there's stuff like the way they write out the Justice Society, which we'll have to talk about. There's a thing with Sargon that we'll probably have to do. So I mean, Crisis. We see Crisis issue 12 was the end game, but there'll probably be a few bits and bobs after that. We're not going to continue and do every single Justice Society story ever. That would, because the whole point of it is the pre-crisis. It would be hilarious to finish in issue 10.
Please.
I mean, there's so many Crisis crossovers, some of which are more relevant to the and have more more to do with the story than others. Like, I think there's a couple that literally just have a couple of panels of red skies, so we'll go over them very quickly. But I imagine we'll probably do the 2 Firestorm issues together. The Loser special will get episodes. We'll try and work out a chronology as best we can, so that we're kind of doing it in order. I imagine it'll probably be, we'll do issue 1 and then we'll do the crossovers that are published before issue 2, then we'll do issue 2 and then the crossovers published before issue 3. I reckon that's the way we'll do it, but we'll get ages to be able to worry about it.
Lots of fun until then, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And plenty. So there you go. There's plenty more episodes to go. I mean, if they weren't grey-haired now, like I am, after a podcast of this long, then they'll be grey-haired soon enough.
I'm still a chocolate waterfall, my friend. We'll be right.
You might need to see a doctor about that, Tony.
Who's that buddy of ours who reckons I'm sucking the life out of you and replacing your hair with mine?
Well, I'm getting like more salt and pepper in my hair every day.
It looks distinguished.
Yeah, it does.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank God for Doctor Strange being popular. You're fine.
I went bald and grey in my 30s, so just embrace it.
Just turn into it, man.
Invest in a set of clippers and go nuts.
Yeah.
There you go. More life lessons from Earth 2 there. And you definitely need to check the show out, folks, because it's fascinating. And also like just highlighting like a bygone era of comics.
Yeah, there's issues there I've never seen, but I'm carried along by you two doing it. I'm there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Very quickly. Like I'm in the issue and listening and sort of just doing my work, listening to the story, and I'm totally there.
It's working, David. It's working. I told you it would work.
That's good to hear, because I've got a few work pals that have started to listen to it or dipped in here and there, and obviously a few folk that I work with have been in episodes recently, so they've listened to it. And I will sort of say, does it work? Does it come across? Because I think I'm too close to it to be objective. I listen to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think we're also carried along by your two guys' relationship and the back and forth and your personalities. Because, I mean, we have people who listen to this show who don't read comics. They just like listening to it. I think that's the nature of podcasts, isn't it?
Yes, it's like what we said about Breakfast in the Ruins. I've read one Michael Moorcock book, but the hosts are just so lovely.
Yeah, he is. What a nice guy. Yeah.
They're brilliant. I'd love to buy them a pint and go for a pint with them or something, or go to the show
same as man.
Because it's the one book I've read. But I think that's the best thing about podcasts. You keep going because you like the hosts, and if people like what we're doing, that's great. That's
especially in this sort of day and age where there's been some lovely comic book podcasts that have gone by the wayside because of genuine reasons, and etc. So it's if you need more comics in your life, then check out the Earth 2 podcast. See?
Yeah.
Totally.
And also, there's so much joy to be found in the comics of yesteryear.
Yep.
So much
crazy
fun Silver Age maniac stuff. Loads in there. I mean, I think for a while Grant Morrison based his career on some of the stuff in those books, didn't he? Yeah,
without a doubt. Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah. But these fine gentlemen are fools because they're with us for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And they'll have a couple of recommendations when we get to that bit. It's going to be jam-packed, so get your notebooks and pens.
One of my recommendations is purely because these two gentlemen are here. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what they think.
So we're going to add to your wish lists and reading lists shortly. But before we do that, do we have any shout-outs, gents?
Yeah, I've got a couple. So the United Going Underground is now on Kickstarter. It's a cracker, absolute cracker. I know, do you know Johnny Cannon, David? I know you know him, Pete, don't you? But,
I don't know. Do I know him, Peter?
Don't think so. No, I don't think you've met.
Yeah. He's a Glasgow.
That spectacular event is still to happen. No.
Okay.
Yeah, that crossover. Yeah, he's a Glasgow-based creator, and this is a story about a super team throughout the United Kingdom in a sort of different future. Me and Alan H interviewed him for the NIA recently, and I got to tell you, that dude put the work in the creation of this comic, and it's a cracker. So go and back that. It's got about 20 odd days left. Also going back. Those saucy blokes, or I don't know whether they're blokes, actually could be ladies, Asteroid Belters, Summer Slammed, which is, I think, the 4th issue of the series of books they're doing. They're fun, saucy science fiction stories that just really make me laugh. Just absolutely brilliant. There's a new collection of short stories coming by my mucker, Adam Falp, all by him, this one, and it's due to be released any time, any day now, and it's called Electric Chair. So it's really good. Some of his best work. Wait, the cover's out on his socials. Go and have a look at that. Get that and watch for the socials for that. Drop in. If you're at Baltimore Comic Con on the 8th of September, or if you're at SPX on the 9th and 10th of September, then come and say hi to me. At Baltimore, I'll be haunting the aisles with Cliff and Strotty, and I'll be behind the no-brow table. Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's trouble. And at SPX, I'll be behind the no-brow table with Sam. So if you're there, make sure you come and say hello. Falp is going to be at SPX as well with Eddie from Strangers, and they're going to be behind the Strangers table. So definitely say hello to them as well. And just a big shout out to Mike Sadakat, who I met up for a curry with his buddy Dan on Friday night, and much hilarity ensued. So just a big shout out to Mike as well. There you go. Come on.
Nice, Dan.
Nice one. I've got Blam and Glam, issues 1-7 and Toy Figure, a comic set in an alternative 2020-2021 where a woman with amnesia battles demonic mecha monsters. a smash for its funding goal from Richard Morgan, previous guest on the show. That's going to have 30 days to run, so
that's killing it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's crushing it.
Yeah.
That's crushing it. We've got Knave of Hearts. Get indie comic Knave of Hearts to a Comic-Con. A steampunk comic where the gods stir up trouble, humanity is screwed. I've given Knave of Hearts a shout out for it must be like 2 months now. She's done all right, mate. That's smash for its pledge goal. We've got No Escape from Vida Futura, issue 1. Heaven is a prison with psychotic angels as guards. Isabella is dead, but she has a plan for that. A sci-fi afterlife thriller.
Could do with a bit of help, this one, couldn't it?
Yeah, that could do a bit of help. Got another week to run on this, and we need another bag of sand to get this over the line. And
you got me, you.
And it looks great. The artwork's fantastic. It's a strong premise for the comic. Yeah, I'll go and check that one out.
Nice.
Well, you got to do Kieran's one as well.
Yes, and lastly but not least, if I just shut the fucking tab. No, I haven't. August 12th, 12 noon to 5 p.m. We've got a special event at the Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, and our friend of the show, Kieran Squires, is going to be on there.
Yeah, look
signing.
at him. Big news.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
and,
he's going out to Red Bank, New Jersey, to do a signing. What a rock star!
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. Take photo ops with cosplayers, everyone.
Yeah, he's promised me nudes from that.
Yeah.
I've got literally got that in writing. I can tell you that now.
So it's the Heroes for Causes. I'm not too up on what's going on there or what the comic's about. So
it's an original superhero lineup of heroes inspired by real children fighting chronic illness. There you go.
Well, there you go. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if you're in the Red Bank, New Jersey area, feel free to pop in and say hello.
I think it's about an hour outside of New York, that place. Yeah.
Just down the road from me.
Yeah.
Saturday, 7th of October 2023, Doubletree by Hilton, Bristol, is the Comic Expo in Bristol.
Oh, yeah. Look at that on the way back.
Which came onto our radars from 10:30 to 5 p.m. Tickets now on sale. If you go to comicsexpo.bristol.my-online.store
What?
or /. There is a who's who of guests and sort of indie creators being there. Two of the big ones, Liam Sharp and Alan Davis.
Wow, look at that. Did you see the photographs of Alan Davis at John Byrne's studio that came out that he put out this week?
No.
Fucking what? Talk about a lovely picture. Alan Davis fanboying in John Byrne's studio. How cool was that?
Nice. Yeah.
You did our Scottish friends? Did you ever go to the Bristol Comic Con or Bristol Comics Expo back in the day?
Not the Bristol one, no.
Right.
We'd Glasscack is what we had.
That was a bit like UCAC, wasn't it? We had UCAC, you had Glasscack. Yeah. Cool.
So this one came onto our radars. I was completely unaware of it, and it's just right down the road for me. So
it's where they have Lawless, isn't it? Same place.
Yeah. So there you go. Adults £10, child's £5, under 12s free with an adult ticket. I don't know why I said it like that. That was a bit weird.
It was a bit creepy.
A bit weird. Fine. We haven't drawn attention to it, so we can just move past that.
Yeah, I was kind of gloss over it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's not mention
you
it.
did it.
No one want to talk about it.
Do
Do our guests have any shout outs that they'd like to?
Any events coming up at your shop or anything, Pete?
No, yesterday we had Small Press Day.
Of course.
How'd that
go?
We had some great people. Unfortunately, the city centre is currently shut down for a cycling event just now. So footfall wasn't quite what we hoped, but certainly the creators were there. They were fantastic. We had Ian Jenkins, we had Matt Smith, who's not that Matt Smith, or that Matt Smith, or even that Matt Smith, but he's a different Matt Smith. He was there. We also had Connor Tierney and Conor McGowan. Sidney Galloway was there, and the fantastic David Dunlop was there as well.
Oh, cool.
So it went very well for them. So cool.
Good stuff,
Nice.
man. Yeah.
So have the notebooks ready, folks, because we're probably going to recommend quite a few things to you right now. And it's the recommendation section of the show. And as always, the guests go first. So David and Peter, who wants to fight over? What would you like to recommend to our lovely listeners?
After you, David.
Okay. I don't read an awful lot of comics at the moment, really, that's coming out, because so much of what I read is just for the podcast. But I'm enjoying Night Terrors.
Okay. Did you read the Joker one? Yeah.
No, I'm not reading the Joker one because I'm not a big Batman fan as such. I'm just reading the ones that are kind of relevant to my interests. So I'm delighted that the Golden Age Sandman has been rescued from his alpine grave and dug up by Deadman. I recently got a hold of Lou Stringer published another collection of Combat Colin strips.
Yeah.
I think Lou Stringer is a comics god, quite frankly. I wish he was getting a lot more work to do.
Is he selling some of his OA as well at the moment? I think.
Yeah, he's doing quite a lot of that. He's also just published another collection of prisoner-related strips and stuff, which I've ordered from. I've yet to receive that. I'll also mention the comic strip in Doctor Who magazine just now is phenomenal. Alan Barnes and Lee Sullivan, they're killing it. They get 6 or 7 pages every month, and there's more story and development and intrigue than you get in just about American 20-odd page comic at the moment.
More Doctor Who in a minute, actually, David. Yeah.
I spoke to Alan the other night, and he assures me there will be a collection of it all when it's finished, so that should be out before Christmas, I would hope. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to kind of
nice
at the moment.
Yeah, the Joker one I'd recommend. It's I won't ruin it all, but the somebody dies at the start of it, and the Joker decides his life is aimless, and he ends up working in an office and just fucking around.
Oh, okay.
It's just Simon Russell put me into it on the Slack because I like you. I'm not too certain about that event. You know, I won't be reading all the spin-offs, but I sort of thought, oh, that sounds a laugh, and it's genuinely funny. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
I'll maybe check it out then. That'll do.
Yeah, it's on the app actually. If you got the app, it's on the Ultra level or the Ultra tier, whatever they call it. Yeah.
Nice. Pete, what would you like to recommend?
Well, as you can hear, I have something that is crumpled, and that is Crumpled by David Dunlop, who I was just talking about. This is a self-anthology comic full of bits and bobs, it says, and literally it comes crumpled up.
Oh, I saw this on his socials, actually. Yeah.
It's fantastic. The thing about David is he's so talented. He's got so many different styles, and he always likes to do something different. Every single thing that he does is different from the stuff before. If I could possibly direct people to his Etsy store, and you can actually check it out. It's etsy.com/UK/shop/David T. Dunlop. If you check that out and just have a look at the sheer variety of stuff that he does, because I don't think there's anyone in indie comics currently working the way he does. He just thinks outside the box and everything that he does. But yeah, Crumpled, it is.
Yeah, we recommended his, is it called
Joyous.
Mother or something? The one about his mum, that one. It's almost like a little preview comic of a bigger, longer thing he's doing. And almost every page is a different discipline of art, almost, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what this is like on Crumpled. There's some fake adverts in here as well. There's some bits that are just sheer poetry, to be honest. There's a bit about loneliness, which is heartbreaking, and it's absolutely gorgeous and totally crumpled up.
Yeah,
absolutely genius, and love the guy's work to bits. And check out David Dunlop because he's amazing.
That's fun.
Nice.
Very cool.
As we record this, his store. He's having a bit of a break and reopening the store on the 14th of August.
Oh, there you
okay.
Oh, really? Oh,
I know he did South London Zine Fair, didn't he? He does get about.
Yeah.
I think.
He does lots of them. Yeah.
He literally just posted it today, I think, that he's just having a little bit of a break.
Oh, shame. Oh, well.
Well, not a shame, because you never know when people are going to listen to this. So,
well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm glad he's done that. I had a little bit of a rant this week about small presses spending fucking months to send their comics out. You know, so if you can't send your comic out within 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to say, then do close your store down. If you go on holiday, I'm going on holiday for a month. I'll just ignore all these orders till I get back.
It's much like patrons, isn't it? Like
exactly.
Yeah, I know. Recently, I had a message. Edison Neo's just sort of like
me too. Actually,
he's like sort of just
paused it. Yeah,
paused it, and that's brilliant. That's what creators should do. You know, like, if they're not providing the thing that people are paying for, it's better to pause it, because then people aren't going to be charged. Because I would have thought, if you don't pause it and people aren't getting anything, you're going to lose those people.
Cancel.
Yeah, they'll cancel and they'll never come back.
And you'll have messages saying things like, "Did you send that? Because it got lost?" Or which tends to be the innocent sort of way I go with it. Oh, it must have got lost. You know.
I try and get stuff out ASAP, because like you just feel so bad if someone's paid you money for your comic. Like, they're investing in you as a kind of creator, and they've paid money, and So why don't you want to get out to them ASAP?
Yeah. Cool.
So, cracking recommendations from our lovely guests.
Thanks, guys.
Tony, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so I've got Cutaway One Shot, Demon of Eden, which I know David and Pete are Doctor Who fans. So you've heard of this, Pete, haven't you? Have you heard of it, David, at all? Or
I've read some of the Cutaway stuff. They did some stuff with Eric Saward.
Yes. Yeah, and they've done a Lytton comic as well, believe it or not. I'm
a massive fan of Philip Martin's Gangsters series. That was my obsession during one of the phases of lockdown. So I was very interested in the Lytton series because obviously that had Philip Martin was involved in that. So I'm familiar with some of the stuff that Cutaway have done. Yeah, but as I say, my true interest is on the wane these days, so I don't really pick up everything.
I get you. Yeah.
Eden, what does that involve then?
Yeah, so I've been on what I'm referring to as a Tomathon because I'm rewatching all the Tom episodes, which I used to post about every episode, but the only person who ever replied on the Slack was Pete. So I'm kind of just going to summarize it at the end of the I'm almost at the end now. Yeah.
Shame. I look forward to those. Shame.
Oh, thank you, mate. Cheers. So I'm just in the middle of City of Death, so I'm almost I'm getting there, you know. So I've done Destiny and anyway. So it all comes from the fact that I did a podcast with Eamon. We did the Star Beast because obviously we now know it's upcoming as an episode in the regular series, but was a Pat Mills, Dave Gibbons story. So I got on this Tomathon, and then as part of it, I realised I had Demon of Eden, which I'd bought from Strange Apparitions after they got it off Des himself when they went to Des's house and got a load of his comics to sell. So it's so the company do basically a lot of different comics based on kind of spin-off characters from Doctor Who. So like you say, we had the Lytton. Lytton is a character that turns up in Pete Davidson's story, then he turns up in a Colin Baker story. They do like a Paradise Towers comic, believe it or not. They've got, what's the other ones? To be fair, being small press, I've ordered these. They still haven't arrived yet. They do an Eldred Must Live, which is from The Hand of Fear, which is a great character. That's
with Omega, haven't they?
Yes, Omega as well. Yeah. But Hand of Fear is one of those stories. If you ever watch it, it starts off as this sort of Hammer-esque story, as a lot of stuff did back then, and it just goes fucking mental in the last episode. You're on this planet with loads of people who like got rocks glued to their face, and you know, it's like anyway, but it's good. And then they do. They've done an Orsini. Now that's a deep cut, isn't it? From the Colin. Yeah. So they've done that, but this is more in the style. It's a magazine-sized comic, and it mimics issue 1 of Doctor Who Weekly. It's even got transfers on it.
Oh wow!
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the Demon. So it's actually a sequel to the Tom and Lala Nightmare of Eden. Incidentally, I reckon in City of Death they were at it. You could tell from the way they wonder about Paris.
Yeah, that's one of the great things watching Tom Baker stories. You can tell with him with arguments because
you really can't you? Yeah, there's a couple of Leela episodes. I'm like, they ain't getting on there, are they?
Yeah. Watch when you get to State of Decay. Just watch the pair of them and just nothing else, and you'll just see like the before your very eyes the ups and downs. Don't dip your pen in the company ink. That's what
exactly. Yeah. Sharda's still the great missing episode, isn't it? Still amazing. Yeah. It's written by Ian Winterton. It's art by Martin Geraghty. There's some great ink wash by Andrew Orton, letters by Colin Brockhurst, and it's produced, AK edited by our old pal Des Skin, who has a classic Doctor Who Weekly page where he talks about what he's doing, and he's wearing a Tom hat in the picture, just leering out the camera. You know, he was funny as fuck when we had him on when he guys. Do you know what I mean? So he's doing that. So the year is 2129. Eden is this sort of forested, what is considered to be a paradise, but it's not really. They've gone there and they've discovered it's just an absolute horror show. And there's all manner of predators on there. Least of all is the Mandrill, which is the creature from the 79 story, the 4-parter. But they got to have got this from June. So the Mandrill is this drug, Vraxoin, I think they pronounce it. Yeah. So the Mandrill, when it breaks down, becomes this super addictive drug, which is quite an interesting, a bit like we all know now that Shea Hulud is spice, isn't it? You know, the sort of thing. So it opens on a space convent, and you all know how much I love sexy nuns. and it's a run of there's one of them is she's called I think Kiba, and she's got one of this almost like a tattoo of a third eye on her forehead, and she's kneeling down and praying, but at the same time there's a nun who's off her face on this drug, and she goes and elects all the creatures from the forest into the convent, and of course the nuns all have to tool up with blasters. Nothing sexier than a nun with a gun, and they go they have to sort of fight their way out. The convent gets overrun, so they have to go into the forest, and they think we're going to fucking die here. And then they come across a team of hunters who are looking for this creature that's even worse. The mandrels called the Zarzok, and you think this is just getting worse and worse. And I won't ruin it all, but it plays on there's apparently some kind of psychic link between Kiba and the planet, maybe, or some of the creatures that they're playing on, and it goes off on that. But it's done like a Doctor. It looks and reads like a Doctor Who weekly story. It's split up into four chapters, and the chapters are broken up with things that you would have seen in Doctor Who Weekly. So you got the letter from Des, you got readers' letters, you got a caption competition, which is which is Tom Baker cuddling that weird, what was it, mannequin that I think they might have used in the Five Doctors of him. Sort of thing. It's also got do you remember like the information pages about, I don't know what you guys are like, but I was reading Doctor Who Weekly when it came out, and a lot of these things I didn't know what the fucking the rescue was from William Hartnell or stuff. I didn't have a clue. I had the episode guide, I think, maybe at that point, but I didn't know these, couldn't visualize anything about them. And so it had these sort of data bank kind of entries, and it's done in exactly the same format. I haven't gone back and checked to see if they just lifted all the text. I'm not going to say it's Des, so who knows? I would never say that, but who knows? Do you know what I mean? There's an advert. I don't know if you remember the licorice adverts that you used to get with the guy with the sort of the hat on the back. That's it, yeah. But they've done it as Trist from Nightmare on Eden. So it's Trist's face. Yeah, there's a real lot of love in it. And yeah, it's really good. So you can go to cutawaycomics.co.uk and you can find some of this. They describe it as old Who, new comics. Absolute joy to read. Like, it really took me back to those Doctor Who weeklies, which was usually like a Doctor Who strip, and then it had other stuff in it as well, didn't it? From the same universe.
Because they reprinted Marvel's 70s versions of like War of the Worlds and Invisible Man and all that sort of stuff. Right.
Yeah, the classics comic stuff. Yeah. And then you had stuff like Junkyard Demon in there, and you had, all this sort of just amazing stuff in the comics back then. Yeah, really good stuff.
I was in FP Glasgow this afternoon. Right. Looking for something in the back issue section. I'm not going to tell Peter what. It's a low-key surprise. And I've never read 2000 AD. I was flicking through the 2000 AD boxes looking for something, and I saw what was he called? Slice. This cover stuff appeared to be a complete rip-off of Absalom Dark, the Dalek killer. He looked identical.
Oh, this rings a bell. Yeah.
Okay.
I need someone to fill me in on that somehow at some point. That was very interesting.
Well, Absalom Dark is canon now, isn't he? Because he appeared in the new series, didn't he? He appeared on the screen, didn't he?
Box Up in Time Heist, I think it was. Yeah. So this character, he seems to be part of a hero team or something. But that's absolutely. I should have picked them up. I might do that. Maybe I'll come back in.
Yeah, the universe. There you go. Multiverse.
There we are.
Yeah. But I looked at Doctor Who Weekly 1 today at the Comic Mart. I was flicking through the magazine boxes, and it's I think it was £30.
Yeah,
not
too bad.
Did it have transfers?
Oh yeah, it did have transfers on it. Yeah,
I didn't
open it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
yeah, I thought it was pretty good value. Yeah, that's my first one, guys. It's called Cutaway One Shot Demon of Eden. There you go.
Cool.
Hey,
nice. Dan, what's yours?
I've got two mangas I quickly went in on, which were both of them very different and kind of odd. I didn't expect what I got. The first one is Sakamoto Days, and I think Tom Curry recommended this when we did Manga Month.
It's on the Shonen Jump app, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I read the first one, and essentially it's about like this kind of legendary hitman who ends up meeting the lady of his dreams and retiring and become a shop owner. And the organization he used to work for essentially saying, right, we want to kill him. We don't want him around anymore. I kind of hate that premise of there's the ultimate assassin, and the way we're going to deal with him is by killing him by his former employers. That seems to have been done to death, that fucking story. Yeah. But it's fun. I mean, it wasn't really my cup of tea. I kind of realised through reading this, I kind of like the more serious manga, the stuff that kind of takes itself a bit more serious, when it's a bit more humorous and jokey, it doesn't really land with me. And as you mentioned, Tony, I think it's the sometimes the humor doesn't translate.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get it, but like some of the stuff in One Punch Man, I find that funny. In this, I was like, oh, okay, I can sort of take it or leave it. It's the sort of the craftsmanship's all there. Like the artwork is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I don't always get the humor in One Punch Man, but the visuals are so good in that book. It just carries you through, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, the superhero fights in One Punch Man, it's just like
incredible.
Fuck me, if some of the sort of Western comics could be like this at times, it'd be like, oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I listened to you do the Superman.
Oh yeah,
on the Never I Know Anything, and you talked briefly about the Doomsday fight, and that I can remember reading that, thinking, "Fucking hell, this is going on and on." I didn't really clock about that the panels going down from each issue.
Till it was just one page splashes.
One page,
yeah.
So that's my first one. I mean, if you got the Shonen Jump app, give it a shout. Try that one out. I bought that book for the boy, and he didn't bother to read it, but I did. So the second one was even weirder. Assassination Classroom. Have you heard of this one?
Yes, I have. I haven't read it though. Yeah.
Written by Yusei Matsui and published by Viz Media. It's very odd. The 75% of the moon is blown up by this strange kind of octopus creature that wears like a kind of an acid smiley face mask, and he becomes the teacher of this class, and he's an absolutely fantastic teacher, and he says, like, in a year's time I'm going to blow up the world, but he's an amazing teacher of this classroom of kids, these kind of wayward kids.
What? Have I just taken drugs?
No, that's exactly the story. So the government goes.
Yes, you have.
All the governments across the world have tried to kill this thing, and they cannot do it. This won't work. Wherever they try, it's kind of like he's like a superhuman on crack. There's no chance of getting him. So they say to the students, they'll give him 10 billion yen to any one of them that kill him. So through the course of the first book, the students are trying to take him out, and it's failing. But actually, he's a really good teacher. But he's still under this thing of, like, in a year's time, I'm going to blow up the earth.
What does he feel? Does he feel bad about it?
No, it's just a statement of fact. This is what I'm going to do.
Right, there's a job in it.
But yeah, obviously it's going to go somewhere from the first book of him just sort of. There's a reason for this and why he's doing everything, but yeah, it's a weird one. I was like, what the hell is this about? I thought from the title, Assassination Classroom, is going to be like, oh, it's a school of assassins or something. So when you get this kind of like weird octopus creature that they tried to kill him several times in the first book, but it's with BB guns. For some reason, his body hates BB guns. When it hits, it kind of explodes. But the entire classroom, like, all stand up in the beginning of the book and start firing these BB guns, and he's moving at like light speed, and none of them are hitting him. And it's just like, where the hell is this story going to go? I couldn't make
We've all
this
written
up
that sort of stuff, haven't we?
Yeah. But he's a good teacher. What?
Yeah, it's really bizarre, but very interesting.
Cool.
Do you know? I mean, it sounds weird, but I'm kind of fascinated to see where a story like that goes.
Yeah, like, where's that go?
It's so random that it's like, okay, let's see this play out.
Only in comics.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture of the. That's interesting. IMDb, they've made an anime of it, and they've got a live action.
Oh my god!
Of course.
Yeah. I'll send that in the. I'll stick that in. It's usually a kind of a good sign of like this is a quality book, because they've gone as far as that. I've just stuck that in the Zoom chat so you can take a look at that.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
There you go.
Google it, everyone. My recommendation this week, I picked up a Comixology original. I say picked up. I rented it from the Prime Reading Library. Basically, I didn't spend any money. Well, I say that.
That's a bargain.
I say that. I've paid for the Prime membership. Do you know what I mean? So
exactly.
So I might as well make the most
big
of it.
roller.
And I will say that if any of our listeners have something like that, don't miss out on this, because it is basically like a reading library that has like lots of different comics and trades and graphic novels and stuff. And all of those Comixology originals are on there. One of which I haven't read yet, but is that Barnstormers, the Eisner winning Scott Snyder one. That's all on there.
With the lady organises Thought Bubble.
Yeah, Tula Latte.
Tula Lotte. Yeah.
And there's of course we're at a point now where a lot of them have collected volumes. You could as they were coming out, you could have read the issues, but now there's an abundance of like collected editions. And I picked up one called Census on there, which it had a striking sort of cover of this guy. He almost looks like a John Constantine light, in amongst a busy sort of street crowd. He's got a little sort of iPad in front of him, but all of the people around him are weird supernatural monsters. It's like a street scene, but everyone else happens to be a supernatural monster other than him. And I thought, okay, let's give this a go. And it was sort of sat on the reading pile. You know what it's like. You go to the library, you hire out a bunch of books, you read the rest, and there's one that you don't quite get to straight away, is there? So I just thought, so I sat down. I thought, let's see where this goes. And I just started reading it, and I didn't stop. I just kept going. I was like, oh yeah, this is quite, the time flew by. I was invested in the characters. It feels very sort of episodic. I think it's 5 issues in the first volume of this one. The creators is written and created by Mark Bernardin and Adam Freeman. I believe Mark is one of the guys that does that Fat Man on Batman with Kevin Smith.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Art and colours by Sebastian Perez, lettering by Bernardo Bryce, edited by Sarah Litt. And this was just a great little series. The synopsis is: to get the job of a lifetime, sometimes you have to sell your soul. Liam Malone gets a job working for the Census Bureau, registering all the demons, succubi, and other supernatural beings in New York. The job of a lifetime might just cost him his life. So he basically this guy just needs a job. He goes in and so he's basically just got to go round and basically sort of tally up all of these weird supernatural creatures that are in New York, which is, on paper you just think, well, that doesn't sound like much of a comic book, this guy just getting signatures. But there's so many like unique and fun ideas in this. Immediately starts, the first page is him actually sort of like strapped to a bed in his pants, surrounded by succubi.
We've been there.
It's a very and how he gets out of that's quite funny. There's a real charm and wit to it. When I mentioned like Constantine just a minute ago, it's not that sort of darkness. It's more of a lighter tone, but it still keeps supernatural elements. I mean, there's things from ghosts to Baba Yaga, which is a witch that is baking children into pies.
Boney M song.
Yeah, of course you know that. And like, there's demons, there's all kinds of things. But he's a really likable character, and this is something that I always sort of like try to pay attention to how much I actually like and am invested in the main characters of sort of independent and small press books, especially the ones that go, that are just like, right, we're following this one person. It really does hinge on how much you're with them or you like them. And he's not a perfect guy. He's sort of down on his luck, but he is working for hell. But he's not one of those grizzled, smoking like 50 cigarettes a day and drinking. He's just a normal guy, and like when he's faced with some sort of dark and twisted scenarios, and he wants to do the right thing as well, which of course gets him in trouble with his bosses, who are like, you're not supposed to be doing this, you're just supposed to be taking the thumbprints. So you've got that story going along. There's a romantic arc in there, and I'm a sucker for romance, me. I love a romantic story.
Okay.
And it's quite nice.
I like sort of romantic things.
Not like that, Tony. There's nothing.
Okay.
Like that.
That's a proper romance.
Yeah. And the 5, it kind of ended in a way that I hope there's more. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, this arc came to a sort of natural conclusion. I say conclusion. It does feel like each issue as well is kind of episodic in the fact that he's got to get this person's signature on this particular time, which gives birth to a larger individual story with each issue. and the sort of romantic arcs, etc. Other like subplots going through it. Really, really cool. I was really surprised. I was,
nice one, man.
I looked at it thinking, I love it when you just get these comics. You just think, just give that a read, and before you know it, you're like, right, next page. You just, I was unaware. Every time like the front cover of the chapter 3 came up, I was like, oh fuck, I've read 4 issues already, and that's a joy. So if you want something, a quick read, light but really cool. It's also, these books are in print via Dark Horse. That's the agreement they've got, isn't it? I think the Comixology originals.
Yeah, I think a lot of them have that deal, don't they?
Yeah. So if you want a print copy, just look it up on Dark Horse or just read it online. So there you go. It's
or buy it from the Forbidden Planet Glasgow.
There you go.
There you go.
Census, volume 1.
Order it especially.
Nice one.
Yeah. So much so, if volume 2 comes out, I'll be straight on it. You know what I mean? That's the joy of a collected edition, isn't it? Okay, Tony.
Last one. So mine is this is a very quick one. Mole number 9 by Andrew Pilkington. I reviewed his book Mozzarella Halloween before. Has anyone heard of this dude?
No.
Fucking hell. This is A4 magazine size, but with sort of cardstock pages and cover. Full colour, £10. I got mine through the one-stop shop for Underground in the UK, which is Third Bear Press, where you should all be getting your US Underground from. How do you describe it? It's fucking a difficult one to talk about. Pilkington draws in a way that you might think he was banged up in a mental institution. It is utterly disgusting. It shows.
There's a pull quote.
There you go. Have that, Andrew. It shows mutilation, gore, blood. I showed Vincent Dan some pages from this earlier.
Yeah.
If you are suffering hair loss, this will keep you awake at night, because it fixates on hair loss and hair and what people do, and some people do it on purpose. But not just the hair on you. It's mostly about the hair on your head. People ripping clumps out of it and shaving and cutting it, almost like scalping themselves and this sort of thing. But there's a little moment where a lady who's fallen asleep has her pubes trimmed as well. Very strange. Don't read it on a full stomach. But it is. I'm glad it's out there. I'm glad that Pilkington is doing these books. Because they just show what you can do. It does have a gory alternative underground horror to it, which is really interesting, and it plays on it. It basically gets a relationship, gets a group of friends who are probably all groups of friends that we grew up with, sitting around a pool talking shit about each other, and then it just fucking goes off a million miles an hour in about 85 different directions. Totally for adults. You can get it at thirdbearpress.com. Go and buy a copy of it. If you got a full stomach, go and have a look at Mozzarella Halloween. Probably have a look at it before you buy it. But this is issue 9 of it. So I guess I think he's an Australian creator off the back. Yeah, he is. I think he's from Victoria in Australia. But Mole issue 9. There you go. That's my second one.
Nice. So there you go. A massive list of creators and comics for you lovely people to check out. And we hope you enjoyed listening to this week's episode.
Very enlightening.
Thanks to David and Peter again for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
A pleasure. Yeah. A pleasure. It's always nice.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
But can you say the same about producing a podcast?
No editing required in this one. It's fine.
Those long hours and dark rooms.
This is a dream for you, Pete, isn't it? Just having people talk and then you basically cut the ends off and stick it out. Easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I was shocked when you put it on anything that we did a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Pretty much 10 minutes after we just recorded it, I was like,
yeah, wasn't it? I don't. Yeah. I sometimes feel bad because I do wait a bit before I tell someone I'm putting it out. Because I sometimes think I feel like they think I put more editing into it, but yeah.
No, there's absolutely
fearless professionals. That's about us, Pete. Yeah.
Yes. There you
go. Yeah. And if you liked this week's slice of professionalism and comic book chatter, and want to hear more, or if you've got any events, as we mentioned earlier, some events just pass us by unless someone sort of finds it on the grapevine. So certainly, if there's any comic book
I know a couple
events...
of people about small press. I know, I can't remember on the Slack, it was saying, hang on a minute, it's small press day. You know, it's like that.
Yeah.
Not everyone's on Twitter.
Yeah,
that's the thing,
exactly.
You know?
So if and also with the tire fire that social media and all this kind of stuff is at the moment, if you've got any events that you just want to get the word out about, please get in touch with us, because we'll put them in the shout outs. We'll, you know, and you never know who might be listening and just suddenly go, fucking hell, that's just down the road from me. How did I not know about
exactly.
that?
Yeah.
So there's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. On social media @theawesomepod. Just get in touch with us there. We'll be retweeting and just generally spreading the positivity of comics. Join our Slack group and channels, etc. Wonderful community of people on there just talking about comics, making comics, just generally. It's just good stuff. And it's just
I'll tell you what, DUI 3 is on the bubble. It's very close now to being finished, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks to you two guys, actually. Yeah.
Well,
very cool. I read the forward today. Yeah. Yep.
There you go. So plenty of exciting stuff to check out. And you might be privy to some of that if you go to the Slack group. So get on board. And thank you for listening to us, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe and just leave a review and just say something nice, because we've got fragile egos and we put our voices on the internet, so we clearly just need someone to hug us.
We need to be wanted.
We just, that's why we're here. But if you listen to us on any other sort of network like Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, what other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. Lizzo made me do it.
I was seriously wondering about it. Can I enter my name into something where I never have to hear about Lizzo ever again on any platform, anything?
Normally, listeners, we've got some sort of clue of what he might say at this point. That came out of nowhere.
It's going to be my excuse for everything now. Why haven't you submitted this paper? Lizzo wouldn't let me.
I have to write that down for my excuses. But where can people find us online, etc.? Tony?
NeverOwnAnything.com put 2 podcasts out this week. Surprise to me. So there's one from Johnny Cannon, which is great. John and Al, great on it, and one which is the one you mentioned earlier about the Superman triangle story. So there's a 2-issue thing there about a domestic violence incident, which is it's the 2 comics that precedes the Doomsday event. Really interesting. Yeah.
Nice. Dan.
There's a real juxtaposition there, isn't there?
Yeah, it really is, isn't there? Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
5-issue punch fest. Where can you find me? You can find me on X. No, you can.
The way you laugh to yourself, Dan, and immediately date your humour with that reference.
I think it's Twitter. Still kind of Twitter.
Just say social media.
At Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com. We're coming up to the end of issue 21. So.
God, I'm so like every time I read it, Dan, I'm on the edge of my seat, and I both love and hate you. I don't know. People are just getting limbs ripped off.
Yeah,
then
getting a lot of love this week, man. That new page, a lot of people.
Oh, cheers!
Yeah.
There's going to be a big shocker at the end of this issue, so stay tuned.
Oh God, a big shocker, Dan. See, I know, right? I'm just scared.
It's fine.
That's why you need. That's why you need to read this comic, because it's amazing. Look at how emotionally invested I am. You can find me on social media at Jester Diablo and the wonderful Earth 2 guys. Where can they find you, and more importantly, your wonderful show?
Well, you can find the show at the earth2podcast.podbean.com, on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. We're at the Earth2 Podcast, and on Twitter, as I'm using the traditional name, you can find us at podcast_Earth2, and it's the number 2 for everything. It's not TWO, it's the number.
Good stuff, man. Great. Where can we find you, Pete, though? Where can we find you personally? Give out your home address.
Down the pub, usually.
And your phone number. We need a sort code and account number.
I've got that down somewhere.
You can find me at facebook.com/WatsonsComics, or if you want to check out some of my comics, you can go to watsonscomics.bigcartel.com. I only have 2 out so far, but there is something else in the pipeline.
So love your stuff, man. Yeah.
Oh, cheers.
Awesome. Yeah. David, what about you?
I'm on Twitter, Davad Steele, DAVADSTWL. I'm on Instagram, _DAVAD. So there we go. You can just see photographs and for my job as a stagehand and my witterings on Twitter. Twitter's hellish now, so I'm only on just a microblog. I used to spend a lot more time conversing, but I still pop up on it occasionally.
Yeah. So sometimes I look at it and go, "What the hell is all this nonsense? Why am I looking at this?" And then I'll go do something else.
Turn it off, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't have to turn off this show because we're winding it up. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. We really, really appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you're happy, healthy, reading lots of comics you love, be they new comics, be they old comics, whatever comic. As long as you're enjoying comics, we're happy. That's the main thing, and you're happy, which is brilliant. And we want everyone to be happy because we love you very much. Don't we, Dan?
We do, yes.
Two guys, you love our listeners, don't you?
Of course we do, yes.
Tony, you love them, don't you?
Fucking hate him.
It's so immediate as well.
You bring it out of me. You make me do it.
It's gone from not loving to hating.
I know.
No, I don't really hate them all. I don't hate them all.
Yeah. It's just
if you're on the Slack, I love you. Yeah. How about that? If you go on the Slack, I'll make love to you.
No.
How'd that be?
Ixnay on the Ukfay.
Pete's on the Slack, he knows.
Oh, yes.
What?
A memorable visit to Glasgow, yes.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
I got a shoulder rub in the pub.
We need to. You keep your private business to yourself. We need to talk about this off the air. Until then, while me and Dan are being shocked by what we're about to hear, read loads of comics, make loads of comics, and as always, I don't know, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Hey.
Hey.
Perfect.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.